What's going on? You are listening to This Week in Geeks, the prototype. I am Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone. I'm joined in this not quite a Zoom call, not quite a stage, and not quite live from Los Angeles. I'm joined with Schickbot.
What? Alex, the producer. I was going to say it's not quite Zoom. It's Zoomy Zoom and the Boomy Boom and the Poopy Poop. It's that kind of night because we just watched 4 hours of Game Awards.
Yeah, this year's show felt like it was paced a little bit better. And if you haven't guessed, we are talking about the 2020 Game Awards, not presented by Shtick this year, though clearly there were some sponsors involved in this, and we'll talk about that. Mind you,
was there Doritos or Mountain Dew this time?
I didn't see any.
I don't think so.
You could maybe argue Fortnite and maybe some other people.
I don't think that there was anything that wasn't tech related this time.
Yeah, there wasn't anything really overt and really up in your face. Like basically there wasn't that hydro shave Schick bot that was wandering through the audience for fun. If you happen to remember those shenanigans from a couple of years ago.
I mean, with the way things have gone the last year, with everybody and their mom having a podcast being sponsored by Blue Chew and all that sort of stuff, I was fully expecting Manscaped to sponsor it with the ball deodorizer or something.
Actually, that would have been a great sponsor for this. Actually,
well, for gamers, for the stereotype of gamer boys, is like, here, shave your balls, keep them clean, and it's like, but then you got to realize, why would they want to? They're gamers, right? That's not the stereotype. We're gamers. We don't need to do that.
But you know, why didn't G Fuel sponsor something like this? This would have been a great time to launch a new flavor.
Yeah, you know what? Considering all the people that they have, deals with and gamers and that, there didn't seem to be any big esports sponsors involved.
Yeah, I mean, there was the esports stuff that happened at the beginning of the show, which I can't tell you who any of them are, so we're not going to talk about them. And I know that's probably a disservice to that industry, but I'm also not going to fake it and pretend about it.
We also don't, like, 50% of the games that are esports titles, we don't follow.
Yeah, like I follow COD and that's it.
And it's not for lack of like them being good games. They're just not our genre or not our style. Like, I'm not a League watcher. I'm not a StarCraft watcher. I'm not Valorant or
CSGO.
Fortnite or CSGO. I like my games to have story. I'm not a Twitch gamer where it's like my game has to be 400 FPS to play. Like, it's not my style. But I have heard of some names. I know Golden Boy, the announcer, because he's done pay-per-views. Like, he was on one of the AEW wrestling pay-per-views as one of the color commentators.
Oh, neat.
And he also does boxing. So he's somebody who's crossed over started as a game commentator and has gone on to big sports.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, like I was going to say real sports, no, physical sports. He's done that. So yeah, that's my only tie to esports, is that's who I know.
I've seen some people play League of Legends. I watch my friend Fuya play. I don't understand 95% of what's happening. And that's about it. I've seen some people play Rainbow Six, which that didn't even get a mention this year in terms of best esports thing, but I don't know whether they did much this year. So
they just launched the PS5 and Series X versions that are enhanced with 120 FPS and 4K. So like it's there, but also, did you notice something?
What?
I don't think Ubisoft was represented pretty much at all, except in the accessibility category.
Yeah, they did it for Watch Dogs Legion, if I'm not mistaken.
And they showed off Valhalla, but there was no ads, no trailers either.
Nothing. Yeah, I don't remember anything anyway.
Nothing from Ubi. I was keeping track of. Remember, you asked me to keep track of trailers.
I'm actually surprised we didn't see something for Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
That's what I mean. Nothing.
Or because I know they pushed back Prince of Persia to March. I'm surprised that didn't get at least like a new trailer or something.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of the pre-show.
Which the pre-show was kind of a weird thing. It starts off with best score, and that goes to Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was very deserved. Fantastic score in that entire game. Probably one of the best soundtracks I've heard in a really, really long time.
Yeah.
I honestly, it didn't get nominated. I think Persona 5 Royal should have deserved a nom, but then again, a lot of that is music from the Persona 5 from 2017. Royal added a couple of new tracks. Um, Although we did have a Persona 5 performance in the opening of the show, which
Well, in the pre-show, like I clocked in. I didn't know that they were on for like 45 minutes to an hour before the show, so I clocked in at 6:40 our time. It started at 7, and when I was there, they're like, "We've already premiered a trailer and given away a couple awards," and I'm like, "What?" They already gave 2 away before the show started. They ended up giving 5 or 6 before the show started, burning off some of the better categories. And then there was that performance for Persona Strikers, and it was good.
yeah,
I made sure, like, it was really good. And then the show starts proper. I'm trying to see. I'm on the Wikipedia page because I don't know what we missed in the pre-show, and nobody
I
has anything
I
up yet.
I actually took notes. So the pre-show opened up with best score, and as I just mentioned, that went to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Then the next category was best action adventure, and that was the beginning of the juggernaut that was The Last of Us Part 2 from Naughty Dog. And it's a good game. It's actually a great
Yeah,
game. I don't know whether it's best action adventure game.
yeah. We had a discussion off air about how I personally don't think it's an action game. I think it's purely an adventure title.
Yeah, because you're more going through a quest. You're going through
Yeah,
a story, and we're going to talk about it later because this game wins, I think, for best narrative later on.
it's also a clunkier game than what an action game would normally be. Like it's got weight to it. Like, yes, there's is it action just because they're shooting, or because
Well,
the games that were up against it were
there's more exploration and more stuff to do in Ghost of Tsushima, which I feel maybe should have won this category.
yeah, like the category was Last of Us, Valhalla, Ghost of Tsushima, Miles Morales, which I don't think is out long enough.
No,
When was their? They didn't say when their cutoff was, but it used to be like the 1st of November.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was nominated and it came out on the 12th.
Yeah.
So some of these, sometimes I think that they picked their nominations arbitrarily, or what was popular or what's new that they could advertise, and that might just be me reading a little too far into it. But a game needs to be out more than 3 weeks for it to be considered a game of the year, or
I,
a game,
I,
or a game that is best in its category.
I think a game should have to be out no less than 30 calendar days.
Yeah, I would personally go with 6 weeks. That's enough for reviews to come in, hype to die down, and for us to sit back and realize whether or not it was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, bare minimum 30 days.
Yeah, so that one, and we'll talk a little bit more about The Last of Us Part 2 in this, because as you guys heard, I did my review on Twig earlier this year for The Last of Us Part 2. I thought it was one of the greatest games I've played in a really, really, really long time. But now that I've played a bunch of other games this year, my opinion has changed slightly on it, and I'm looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, I'm not downplaying the game. I'm just saying I didn't think, like, they have a best action category and then a best action adventure category. Shouldn't this have been shouldn't there have been best action and best adventure? Because why are there 2 best action categories and one just happens to be? It's like they made this category for the AAA title.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like Fallen Order, wasn't that a last year game?
Yes, but it works from year to year, and a lot of people wanted Jedi Fallen Order to be included, and as well, it should have.
Well, wasn't that an October game of last year?
November last year, because I specifically had a pre-order.
So so again, they're okay with cutting the game off last year at November, but they're okay this year with including November games.
Yeah, party on.
Party on, something hinky.
The next win, or the next category, and this should come as absolutely zero surprise. Best family game. What do you think it was?
Doom Eternal.
Yes, and you owe Tom Nook a fuck ton of bells, and you're selling him turnips for some reason. I bought this game back in March. I still haven't played it yet.
I absolutely know it's a fantastic game. I also know that it's 100% not for me, so I didn't bother playing it.
I bought into the hype because I wanted something relaxing. I wanted something different. That's when I was going through a bit of a depressive episode, which thank God Persona 5 Royal came out then. And that really cheered me up, despite the fact that game isn't in and of itself depressing at times. But no, yeah, so that one, no surprise. There was no way it wasn't going to win that. The next one, and I'm really happy these guys won because this game came out of nowhere. And this is for best community support. Fall Guys 100% deserve this. These guys do wonderful things with their with like their seasonal updates. They give lots of cool stuff. They talk about things like, hell, you like as of last month you could get a Godzilla costume because it was Godzilla Day.
And I activated it when it was free right away on PS Plus, but didn't play it until last month.
It's fun.
Because of COVID, I usually used to do like a weekly visit with my brother where we'd hang out, play games, and do stuff together. And we decided like we're doing virtual visits for the next few weeks and the last few. So we were playing that for the first time together, and it was super fun. We just went into a party chat on the PS5 because you can do that, and it's worked super well. We were even sharing each other's screens with each other because you can do that, and so I could see him playing, I could see me playing, and it's a simple, fun, ridiculous game.
Yeah, like it's so dumb, it's fun. I love it. It's a lot of aggravation, but not so much so that it pisses you off. It's just a fun game. The next category, I'm glad this game won. I've seen people play it. I haven't played it myself. I want to play it. And it was Phantasmophobia, I think it's what it's called. It's that ghost hunting game, I think.
And which category was that? Sorry.
Debut game. Another game I think here was Carrion was also nominated.
That we had for review. That was fun. You play as a thing like John Carpenter's The Thing-esque monster that grows and grows and grows by the more things you kill.
Mm-hmm.
And you're traversing up a Metroidvania type tunnel. Very, very good game for a first release.
Mm-hmm.
Mortal Shell we didn't play. Raji Ancient Epic I wanted to play, but we never got around to it. That's the one that's based on, I think it's Indian Hindu, or it's one of India's. It's based on the history of one of India's like provinces and mythology, and that it looked really cool. Roki I don't think we played either.
No.
So yes, best debut. We'll have to check out that Phasmophobia.
Yeah, it's like where you investigate a haunted house, and you got to find the ghost. I think I've only ever seen clips.
That's so you, dude.
Oh God.
Well, well, it says it hasn't been released yet.
I think it's in early access or something.
The game is received for large. Yeah, early access. That's what it is. It's not actually. How does that win if it's not released technically?
It's an early access. It's kind of like how Ark, I don't think, is out of beta yet.
No, and the sequel is coming out. We'll get to that. But yeah. But so nowadays, is that early access? Is that what we just call something when they release a game that's not done, but we don't want to yell at them?
I guess. I mean, it works. You can run the executable and not crash your system.
This is one of those things where, okay, Carrion's out. So Phasmophobia, shouldn't this be a category that says best early access title?
See, I'd be okay with that as a new category.
Yeah. Best debut game and then best early access title of the year. Yeah. Because early access could be like, hey, this is really raw and look how great this is.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a category for next year.
The next thing I have these written down in kind of like chicken scratch notes is why was the Persona performance in the pre-show? And it's not that it was a bad performance. I think it was Life Will Change was the song they did.
It's now that's one of the themes. I don't think it's not the battle theme, is it? Or it's not the title theme. It's one of the themes.
Yeah, it's one of the themes. I think
the song is Last Surprise.
Last Surprise. What they should have done was throw away your mask, but I could see how that could be maybe misunderstood with COVID and all that. But that's also the finale song of the game.
Yeah. This is, and it's also a remixed version specifically for Strikers.
So, okay, yeah, sure, why not? There's another thing, and this started out, and this was towards the end of the pre-show, and it's a game, but it looks really weird. And I think the game is called OFK, and it's like this interactive band game. It's like the Gorillas, but a boy band or something. It looks kind of cool.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out whether it was their debut performance, but it's a digital band.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
To me, it was like, you know what it felt like? It felt like Gorillas mixed with Prozac. Remember them?
Yeah.
But mixed with like Beck style rock.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, that looks kind of interesting. I mean, if it's cheap, sure, why not? The next category, there were a couple of these things. I only grabbed the thing that really mattered. League of Legends won as best esports game. Are you surprised?
Yeah.
That game has ludicrous support, ludicrous community, toxic community, good players in it. Just
it was going to be, it was going to be Fortnite or League because Valorant's not big enough. And I didn't know Global Offensive still exists. Like I thought everything's CS:GO.
Yeah, party on, I guess.
And then let's just, before we go through them, let's just get through all the esports ones because honestly, we're not big enough to know a ton about them. Like I'll pull it up. Best esports athlete was Heo Showmaker Sue.
No idea who he is.
Plays I guess with this team Damwon Gaming for League of Legends. Congrats, I guess. Esports team was G2 Esports. Only one I ever heard of from here was San Francisco Shock and Dallas Empire. I didn't know any other teams, so this is a league team, so G2 Esports. Best esports coach was Danny Zonic Sorensen for Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Again, don't know enough about. I'm assuming the coach is somebody who like understands the strategies and just can communicate really quick, like watches everybody playing and then helps coordinate them. Like, do you know how esports coaching works?
Not really. I mean, I've watched an organization from an arm's length. I used to watch Team Caliber, but I don't know how coaching would work other than maybe here's some drills we're gonna do. And I only know the first person shooter side of it. So
I would assume it's somebody who's looking at the whole gameplay board or whatever, or the whole spectator area, and is being like trying to coordinate them into a cohesive team. So that's got to be difficult in such a fast-paced game.
Yeah.
Esports event went to 2020 League of Legends World Championship. Weren't most of the other ones canceled?
No, they were all online. COD did what they could. And I thought it was okay. I mean, I watched COD. I watched the Toronto Ultra as much as I can because I recognize some of the players from other previous organizations before the COD League got boiled down to the 12 teams or whatever it is now, which I'm not a huge fan of this new format, but buying into a COD sport is so expensive.
Not as expensive as a professional like NBA or NHL team though.
No, but we're talking like millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
we're talking like the $10 to $50 million range or more, not the $1 billion yet.
Yeah, no. Other things to talk about,
esports host was FJ Skos. I'm sorry,
I think it is
Skos?
Shocks.
Oh yeah, Shocks. That makes sense. Deportier. I wanted my golden boy to win because I know his name, but oh well. And that's pretty much esports. Sorry, we're not trying to skim over it. We just don't know enough about it.
Yeah. Then the show opened proper. The show opened with a Smash Brothers announcement, and big surprise from Final Fantasy VII Remake or Final Fantasy VII in general, Sephiroth. Cool, and he almost killed Mario. I actually looked at Liam. I'm like, holy shit, did he just kill Mario?
Well, and I was getting up to get ice for my drink, and I missed half of it. Is his final smash the supernova attack?
No, his final smash, he turns into that weird half angel.
The one winged angel, the final form.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty intense. And I think Cloud gets a new final smash too.
Is it going to be the Omni Slash where they're fighting alone in his dream?
It looks like it. Like, it looks really cool, and he drops this month.
Now, how great would it be just to mess with people for like April Fools? You know, have them do a quick update to the game, and when you play a Sephiroth and you do his final smash, it does cut to the cutscene in the game where it does the whole supernova where he pulls that in and it's a meteor that destroys the whole
solar system,
clears the board, and you're like, what the F? Just for one day for April Fools.
or just for one day, just to test the waters, they do the joke character that everybody wants, but nobody will ever admit it. And I'll die on this hill. Put Goku in Smash.
No. Remember, it has to be a video game character, right?
Yeah.
You know who you put in
Yeah.
as the joke for April. If they announce a new character, you have it be like a Street Fighter character again. You're like, really, who? And have it be Dan.
That'd be awesome,
Have
actually.
it be Dan, and he's like, ha ha ha, doing this whole thing. And then as he's like flexing and all this crazy stuff, then you have I don't know, somebody like.
You know who'd be a great Smash character?
No,
and I just thought about this.
I was thinking, you know, you have Dan come in there like boasting, doing all this thing, and then he gets whipped out of the arena, and it's Shantae that shows up.
That I'm honestly surprised we haven't got Shantae even as a Mii Fighter costume. I'm really surprised. But hopefully we can hope. And just as a final Smash wish, give me characters like the Ice Climbers, like you did before, like the Duck Hunt Dog. Give me Toe Jam and Earl. And then we move on to our next category. This one was Laura Bailey as Abby from The Last of Us Part 2. And she went up against Ashley Johnson from The Last of Us Part 2, who played Ellie. I know the guy that played Miles Morales was also nominated in this category. And those are the only three that I can remember. Those notes I didn't take. And this is kind of a difficult one because I did play the Last of Us Part 2. And Laura Bailey is a great actress. She really is. She really does fantastic voice work. But there's something so much more believable and hurtful with Ellie, where there's just something about her I think's innately more likable. And it's not that Abby has a bad story. She has a great story and a great arc. Because you do spend a good chunk of The Last of Us playing as Abby. By the way, spoiler, I guess you've had since June. Sorry. I don't know. It's so hard. If I had my vote would go to Ashley. I just like Ellie better.
The other two nominees were Logan Cunningham as Hades from the Hades game. I didn't even realize that it had like talking or story, because I don't play
roguelike games
at all. I literally even when I'm offered review copies, I can't in good faith take them because I hate the genre so much. Because I can't complete it. I'm not dedicated or good enough to get better. Maybe I just can't do it. Mm-hmm. So somebody else you'd have to take it, or somebody else on our team would have to take the review. So I just avoided it, even though I know I can acknowledge it's probably a fantastic game, but I had no idea. And the other person was Daisuke, or I think it's Daisuke Shuji, the main protagonist playing Jin in Ghost of Tsushima. And as good as he was not as good as The Last of Us acting. So I was fully expecting one of the Last of Us characters to win.
Mm-hmm. I mean, overall, I'm glad it went to Laura, I guess. I wish Ashley won, but Laura still did a fantastic job. It's not what I wanted, but I'm okay with it. I can make peace with it. Moving on to our next category. Or sorry, this one was a trailer that came up.
Well, let's do trailers at the end.
Okay.
So let's just roll. How about we do this? We'll roll through the rest of the awards. Then we can talk about musical performances, and then we'll finish off with the trailers.
Okay. So the next one was Best Ongoing Game, and I'm glad this one won because this one had a lot of stiff competition. I didn't think this was going to win, and it deserves all the praise that it gets from now on forward. And this is No Man's Sky. Good job.
Considering that how controversial it was when it launched, and now it's actually not only caught up to what they promised, but it's gone beyond what they promised. And did you see when he was accepting? His first thing he said was, "I wasn't expecting this."
Yeah.
he was clearly expecting Fortnite, or he said, "Isn't this what Fortnite or Destiny always wins?" In his acceptance speech.
Yeah, he was surprised, genuinely.
It was sort of I guess he was invited to be there and probably felt like it was just the obligatory, hey, here's an indie title, because everything else is AAA.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, well, my years of hard work and dealing with, my initial broken promises at launch and all this, or underestimating the development time, has finally paid off. Because who would have thought we would have been talking about No Man's Sky years later now?
Yeah, like it works. I think it's a part of Game Pass, if I'm not
It
mistaken.
it just got a next gen free upgrade for anybody who owns it.
So honestly, go check this game out. It's a lot better than when I reviewed this game first on the PlayStation 4 years ago. I fucking hated it. I didn't see why it was getting all the praise that it did.
Because it wasn't good at launch. Let's
Yeah,
just be honest. It
fucking
wasn't.
blew.
And then it took a year, and it got to where they said it was going to be, and now we're almost 2-3 years out.
Yeah, 3 years,
and
I think.
and it's at a point now where it's beyond what they said, so they stuck with it.
Yeah, so good for sticking the landing. Moving on to best art direction, there was no contest here in my mind. Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah,
This game is gorgeous. And I've only seen gameplay videos. I've seen some Let's Plays of it. I haven't played this game myself. It's been on my list of shit to buy for like the entire year.
I played it on the Pro for review, and I was in the perfect scenario. It's like I had an SSD installed, which obviously couldn't max it out, but it was going to be better at loading stuff than the built-in old drive. I purposely set my system to HDR off at the time and set it to 1080p, forcing it so I could get the best frame rate, and it was still beautiful. And then I popped it in my PS5 day one, and holy moly. Like, it looks better than most next-gen titles do now. So there really wasn't anything. But I thought the first part of the game was a little bland. I'm like, oh, it's an open world. And then it opens up and you get like such diverse scenery and color and atmosphere. So I totally get why it won. And the only other one, like, Hades is great, but it's not going to, there is a point where money does buy style. Like it does, you would
It's
not
artists.
see Hades. Yes. And as stylized and amazing as some of these indie titles like Hades can be, it's just not at that AAA production value look. Ori was going to give it a run for its money.
Mm-hmm.
Last of Us 2, I don't see the art direction going there because it's kind of bland.
I would disagree because look, wandering through the destroyed Seattle is honestly very, very, very haunting. One of the best places.
It can be haunting, but is it the best, most unique, immersive art direction possible?
It's a different type of art direction. Yeah. It makes the best I've ever heard it described is it makes the apocalypse beautiful. And it really does that. Like, it really makes Seattle and all the other areas that you can explore beautiful. Like, wandering through these ruined buildings, these ruined houses, you really do get the sense that people once lived here and then everybody died at once.
I think Ghost won because of the diverse scenery in every section of the game.
Ghost feels to me alive. That world breathes. That world changes to you. Whereas the world in The Last of Us, nature is starting to come back, yes, but that world is dead. Humans don't live here anymore.
And I can tell you why Final Fantasy didn't win. As amazing as it looks and all this, and it will look even better once we get ray tracing on like a PS5 version, it's because it was stuck to like 3 locations. Had this been like a full remastered version where you were able to go into the overworld, it would have been a different story. But we were kind of limited to our color palette. So I think that's why it didn't go. And Ghost was just like the wind changed, like the music, the wind, everything moves and breathes and has such style. So I understand that. Very, very deserving of its win.
The next category, I wanted a different game to win. It was nominated, but it didn't win. I wanted Streets of Rage 4 to win because that game is fucking awesome. But Hades won this category, and it's not undeserved. A lot of people talk. Yeah, a lot of people talk about it, but action adventure, it's such a weird, as we discussed earlier, it's such a weird category. This is almost like it's actiony in the fact that a lot of stuff is always happening, but it's almost like for the more retro style, I guess. I don't know. Well, it's hard to pin this one down.
Well, and other nominees were Doom Eternal, But that's an FPS. Is that still
Yeah.
action?
I see. Yeah, that's what I mean. This is such a
Um,
convoluted category.
and Neo 2, I can see that. I played it. I liked it. Um, Streets of Rage 4 and Half-Life Alyx, that's a VR game. That shouldn't be in here. It just shouldn't. Like, it's not going to ever perform the same way. And it's also first-person shooter. It's not an action game. And so Hades was the clear winner, other than if you weren't going to count Streets.
Yeah. Like, I like Streets because it's a great retro throw beat 'em up. I love it. You can unlock a bunch of new characters. The music's fantastic. The art looks great, and it's an affordable package too. Then again, so is Hades. It's like $30.
Well,
But
and it's on Game Pass.
yeah, so
And they've made an engine now, man. Could you imagine them getting licenses for stuff like, I don't know, let's say they've done Streets. Why don't they do Final Fight?
I'd be okay with that. Yeah,
Or some of the other bigger. Can you imagine if they got the license to redo the X-Men or Simpsons game
I'd be fine with that.
or Turtles, dude?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's so dynamic, and that game doesn't even use HDR. So or ray tracing. Can you imagine if they add a patch to that to give you like hyper like realistic lighting and all this like super HD stuff? Man, it's gonna be fantastic. It already is.
The next category, we don't have a whole lot to say here because me and Alex don't have a VR setup. Half-Life Alyx is the clear winner here.
Yeah.
It pushed what VR games can do.
Yeah.
To my understanding, it's something I do want to play at some point.
My brother has it.
Yeah.
But I'll preface it by saying he's got like a $3,000 computer, and then he paid like the $1,400 or whatever it costs Canadian to get the Valve Index or whatever. I'm like, dude, was it worth it? He's like, the game's really good. I'm like, but is it worth it for that? Like, he obviously has that for work, but like, there's no reason for him to. He's like, I'm like, is it worth buying? He goes, no, it's not worth the hardware, but it should win all the awards for VR because it's the first generational leap. Like, we're going to see the next 3 or 4 years of games catch up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Dreams, I didn't obviously play the VR version, but I mean, I can see how that's there. Iron Man VR was what they were touting as being a big title, and it didn't really hit.
Yeah, it didn't really set the world on fire like it was.
Same with the Walking Dead one, but Squadrons was the only one that was going to give it a run for its money. Problem was it's VR on PC and PS4 only. Mm-hmm. So I have a feeling, let's say the PS5 been out, let's say this game came out like a year from now, and everybody has a PS5 and they have like a PS5 VR attachment, it might have been there. It's just, I think Half-Life Alyx won for just the huge step up in visuals that it provided.
Mm-hmm. The next category, I'm so glad it won because I hope this shows Activision we want more from this franchise. Please bring it back like you've done now. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 HD remaster. Yeah. Holy shit.
What category was it?
This is for best sports. And like it's such a fun game. It takes all the physics that have worked previously in all the Tony Hawk games, brings back classic levels. Almost the entire soundtrack is back.
Well, and it wipes the floor with everything, because if you look at what else was available, Dirt 5, good game, obviously. Yeah. F1 2020, both of them Codemasters, good racing games. I remember back in the day when racing was its own category, not just sports race and racing. But there hasn't been enough sports racing titles this year. It would have basically been Dirt 5, F1, and WRC. It would have been 3 titles basically. But NBA 2K21, FIFA 21, they weren't going to get it no matter how many players are in there because of the large controversy surrounding them right now with the ads you can't stop playing, the loot boxes being in courts in Canada and other parts of the world. So, and being sort of samey, there hasn't been a change. No NHL game this year for next gen anyway. Madden wasn't even included because Madden's had a disastrous launch. People like backlash from even the super fans because it's basically a reskin of like the last 2 games. But Tony Hawk comes in there, and even if this had been a hallmark year for sports titles, I think Tony Hawk still would have won.
Yeah, like it was a fantastic game. I'm playing it on PlayStation 5. It's one of the few games I've squeezed on my hard drive. It is not leaving anytime soon, and I'm very glad that it's there. This next category, you're gonna have to help me out here because I don't know what the hell this is. It's anticipated, and that's Elden Ring. What the fuck is this? Is that
Elden
that
Ring.
weird? That
That's the game that was announced 3 or 4 years ago by From Software, the makers of the Bloodborne and the, or did they make Bloodborne or no, or the makers of Demon Souls.
yeah,
This is the game that was announced I think 2 or 3 E3 agos.
with
Uh,
George R. Martin, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. Oh,
It's not coming this year. It's going to come in like 2 or 3 years, like if it even comes at all. This is George R. R. Martin we're talking about. He's not doing shit. He still hasn't even finished his books, and the show's been over a year, or almost 2 years.
I also
God,
sorry, go ahead.
God of War sequel was in the category.
Good
Halo
pick.
Infinite. Halo Infinite is not most anticipated anymore. People are trepidatious now.
Yeah.
Horizon Forbidden West was giving it a run for its money.
Yep.
Breath of the Wild sequel, it is, but there's some worry that it's not going to run well on the Switch.
No, that game would have to be on a Switch Pro.
I have a feeling we're not getting a Pro. We're getting a full successor. So, like, it's too late in the life cycle to splinter it into a Pro and then a next gen. I have a feeling it's going to be a generational one, similar to how it was with the Wii U. Like, it seems to be Zelda does the thing where it jumps between generations. Resident Evil Village, the frame rate's still wonky on it, so I think people are sort of like worried about how it's going to turn out, because Resident Evil 3 wasn't as good as people were expecting the remake to be. It's still a great game, but it wasn't the hallmark title that 2 was.
I have this down in my notes.
Yep.
Whooper Watch. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah, I asked in Discord, in a few different Discords that I'm in, I was like, does anybody still play Pokemon Go?
My roommate Shannon plays, but not that often.
Well, and then the response I got was, it's big in Asia, and I'm like,
okay, sure.
This is from a few different people in different rooms, and I'm like, okay, so this was the obligatory, we were paid to put this in here because very few people actually play it anymore. Like, how are you playing it? You're not allowed to go outside. Like, in North America, we're locked down. We're not going anywhere. And if you are, you're a moron. I gotta go catch the Pokemon, and then you die. Like, I'm sorry.
Rather than catch the ball, you caught the COVID.
Yeah. Well, it's like you can, certain areas here, you can go out, you can catch that Pokemon, and then you'll get hit with an $850 fine from the government.
Yeah, just
for being out.
Yeah,
so no, bad ad was bad.
And then this game, and this is another controversial category, but the winner was The Last of Us 2. Who were some of the other contemporaries with this?
You're still not saying what the category is.
I did. I said best narrative.
Oh, I thought you said this category was
yeah
best narrative.
Yeah.
This is the one where I was like, at first I was like, no, because isn't this the game that everybody hated the story from?
Yeah, because like it boils down to revenge, but told from two different sides.
And it was too grisly and unrealistic.
Yeah, like there's one part about this game, and I think I told this story back in June, but I'll tell it very here in brief. There's a point where Ellie kills somebody in this game. You kill them in the aquarium. And I guess I'll just come out and say, you kill a pregnant person. You stab them in the gut. And then Ellie realizes what she's done. And you stab a dog before that. And you think, oh, this person's evil or whatever, right? And then before that, or then later on, you play up to that point with Abby and you see the dog's really nice. That person's a really good person. They're trying to get away from this organization, I think.
And you're not able to, like in a lot of modern games, change that outcome, can you?
No, it baked into the narrative. And I'm not afraid to say it. That legitimately disturbed me and gave me nightmares for at least 2 or 3 nights. And
it wouldn't give me nightmares because I guess I'm a cold bastard, but it would make me go, this is a little manipulative.
I had to put it down for a good chunk of that afternoon. I'm thinking, you know what? I'm taking a break. I'm gonna go play something else for a while. I'm gonna turn off. And I came back at it like 5-6 hours later.
So I can see because it's getting you in the feels, but like Hades, I couldn't see that winning for narrative. I felt like that was just placed there. Roguelikes are not really story games. They're about the experience the other way, like playing. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I saw some people saying that should win. It's a little convoluted, and you kind of have to, even though you can play it fresh, like you've never played Final Fantasy VII before, it's a game that rewards you significantly for having been a fan of the series. And I can see how that might be daunting to new people. It is also way over the top anime, ridiculous, amped up to the max, beyond realistic.
It's goofy as shit. Let's just come out.
Yeah, which can be like, if you're going for most fan servicey game, that's the game. Ghost of Tsushima has a good story, but it isn't the best narration either, or narrative story, because it's a little open. 13 Sentinels probably should have won. It's the one title I wanted to play this year. We didn't get a review copy, and then physical copies were sold out everywhere for like 2 months. It was like the Atlas of old when they used to print very few. Now it's finally back, and I might check it out after Christmas. But that game is, you play as 13 different people, and it's like Ava mecha stuff that you're trying to stop, like demons or something from attacking by controlling these giant sentinels.
Mm-hmm.
And you get you play as each one of them and slowly unravel their stories, and it interweaves 13 people's stories into this giant narrative. It probably should have won. In fact, all of the praise that the game received was people saying, and these are big outlets saying, it might be the best written game of the decade. But nope, Last of Us Part 2 wins because politics?
I don't know. Like I said, it's a story, but not the one that I wanted. Like, well, I mean,
this is the one category it really shouldn't have won based on the backlash it got.
Yeah, I remember people saying they weren't happy with the story. The one part of the story I do like about it is the ending of The Last of Us, where basically Ellie loses everything because of revenge. Yeah. And that's great. I like how that story ends. And then Abby and Lev go off to have their own adventures, presumably. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I get it, but it feels like they voted on this based on emotion, not based on if the story was really well done.
The next thing in my notes, again, chicken scratch. Yeah. The Swedish chef should always be here, always involved, please. Yes.
Yes. Okay. It was technically a trailer, but not really. It was just an announcement that the Swedish chef is now in Overcooked.
Yeah. So that's cool. And he's free. So that's cool.
Yeah. If you have a next gen version of the game.
Yes. The next one was the award for games for impact. I think that was presented by Gal Gadot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. And that was the one, where it's games that either make you think about social issues, deal with underserved parts of the community at large, or really try to push new ways of thinking about things.
Yes, and this one was well deserved. This is on Xbox Game Pass right now.
Yep.
This one was Tell Me Why.
From Don't Nod, who I absolutely love for making the Life is Strange games that I've been trying to get you on.
I
keep saying that, and I still haven't played the second one because I know I'm going to spend a weekend playing and crying probably, because the first game hooked me so much with its mythology and its world building and its simplicity and also its story. The other games here were If Found, which I hadn't heard of, Kentucky Route Zero, which I've heard of but never played, Spiritfarer, which I did play, which was great, and Through the Darkest Times I haven't played either. But Tell Me Why. This is the one where I purposely avoided the storyline. All I know about it is it takes place, looks like you're jumping between multiple times, either through flashbacks or some other method. And it's initially about sisters, and then in the present day, one of the sisters has transitioned male. And I believe even last year when they announced it, it was the first like major release, even though it's an indie title, but like major release from a big studio, to have a transgendered person as the lead.
Yeah, the only other game. Sorry.
and supposedly handled well.
Yeah, the only other game that has a transgender character that I can think of, I'm probably missing a few, is The Last of Us has Lev, who is the boy you meet in Abby's storyline, and you find out before he transitioned, he was promised to be a wife to somebody in this village, and he's like, "No, I'm not fucking doing that," and he bolts. And because
Yeah.
you bolt, they threaten to kill you. They're like, "We used to call you Lily, and now we're gonna kill you." I'm thinking, "Whoa, don't want to touch
Yeah,
that."
yeah. So whereas this is the focal point of the story.
Yeah, like this
So
is interesting.
I do definitely want to play this, and don't nod. Like I've been worried. I'm like all these French studios that we hear about, Quantic and all these people. It's like they keep fucking up and having all these major issues with management being assholes. It's like don't nod. I haven't heard anything. Don't fuck it up. Don't nod. Don't fuck it up. And so far they haven't fucked anything up. And apparently it was a well done game. So I think it's worth checking out. Now this I'm going to assume proves it because this is one of those categories where I believe it's voted upon by people within specific
Communities.
like communities and nonprofits and everything.
Yeah. The next category, I'm not surprised this one. I'm very happy this one, especially it had such competition going up against it. Among Us won. Such a fantastic little game.
And this was for best multiplayer, right?
Yes, best multiplayer. This one, and this is a game you can play on your mobile phones. You can get on Steam. You
Yeah.
can get pretty much
Is,
anywhere.
is this the game where everybody's like that seems sus?
Yeah, like that seems.
I have
It's a dead
no
body.
idea what this game is.
It's basically my roommate Shannon explained it to me, where you're basically trying to figure out who the imposter is. One of you is like a murderer or an alien or something. And I know this was made by like a really, really small team who wanted this game to be really accessible across even like really crappy
And
devices.
now I did hear that there's controversy around this and that this game's already 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah, it's
So
old.
how did it win best game of this year?
It blew up on Twitch and
So
everywhere else.
so the best I could come to terms with is that it's not necessarily about that this in particular this category is about the year the game came out in. It's what was the most played
Yes.
and talked about.
Next category, best indie, and the winner was Hades. Not surprised.
Not surprised. I mean, again, we're not going to play it likely, but that every single person that I've talked to that's played it, it's one of their favorite games.
Yeah. Next category for audio design, and I don't disagree with this one. This again went to The Last of Us Part 2. This game did a lot, especially in terms of accessibility, which we'll talk about later. But audio design in this game is very important because you could hear someone sneaking up behind you. You can tell if they're walking on glass or if they're walking on gravel, which you then can echolocate them in the environment. And that's how I would sneak up on people, is I knew, all right, I'm coming up behind them. Can they hear me if I step on this particular piece of the environment? And it's wonderful sound design. Also, a special shout out to Resident Evil 3, which got a nomination in this category. That game didn't do a lot of things right, but it did audio design right. So
It should have been Tsushima as well. I think when you play that, you might change your opinion.
okay.
I can see how Half-Life Alyx would be included because you're in an immersive 3D headspace, but Doom, no.
It's cool. That's all I can say.
No. Doom's too loud. It's too chaotic.
Doom's sound is attitude. That's it. Though I promise you, I know what's going to win this category next year. Cyberpunk's going to win.
Oh, Cyberpunk's going to win everything. Even with some controversies that it's had with management and crunch and some of its portrayals, or that in some cases people are saying it's under-delivered on its character development or character creation. I think what makes it smoothed out on a technical level so far, it's the biggest jump in things I've seen in like 15 years.
Yeah, it's truly is a next-gen title. And this category broke my heart, but I'm okay with this win totally.
Which category is this one?
This category is RPG, and that goes to our boy in the spiky-haired outfit. Yeah. That is Cloud, and that is Final Fantasy VII Remake. I wanted Persona 5 Royal to win, but I understand why.
I looked at it like this. Wasteland 3, not enough people were talking about it, and it's as good as its narrative might be. graphics make the difference when it comes to RPGs nowadays. Genshin Impact is free, but that's more of a Breath of the Wild puzzle adventure game that happens to have some RPG elements. I don't see how that could have won. That one, I feel Genshin Impact was we got to put it here because it's popular pick. Final Fantasy VII Remake, the reason I can tell you it probably won over Persona 5 Royal is Persona 5 Royal, as fantastic as it was, did it win when it was Persona 5?
I don't know. I would imagine so.
I think it did, but I'll have to go back eventually and see. But Royal is an enhanced remake, or an enhanced Game of the Year upgrade. Now it's better than that in most cases. There's usually just some tacked on stuff. There is some stuff that fundamentally changes the story completely, and you get a whole new game basically.
Mm-hmm.
But comparing that to Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't even just a pure remake. It is a massive alteration of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that out of these, your basic only choices were Final Fantasy VII Remake or Yakuza Like a Dragon, and I personally don't think Yakuza Like a Dragon should have qualified this year.
No, because it hasn't been out long enough.
It's been out exactly 1 month, and I feel that it's been out 1 month and it's not even on PS5 yet. So I have a feeling it's not. They should have waited till next year, and this would have had a stronger contendership because it's wacky and out there and fun. But Final Fantasy makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. Could you imagine the amount of people exploding on the internet if Remake hadn't won or won best? Like, if it wasn't going to win this, it would have had to have won Game of the Year.
Yeah. Next category, this one had no real competition in it whatsoever. This is Best Sim category. Microsoft Flight Simulator, not surprised.
Yeah, it's also the game that will make your video card set on fire.
Yeah.
Most this year. I like the other ones: Crusader Kings 3, Desperados 3, Gears Tactics. That just came out to a sizzle. Like, it fizzled out almost immediately.
There's like some DLC for it, but who cares?
And the next gen version doesn't feel next gen. XCOM Chimera Squad, yeah, it was Flight Sim. This is the first Flight Sim. Like, they stopped selling that stuff, Flight Sim, and making it when I was working retail, like 10, 12, 15 years ago. It was time, and there was nothing short of a catastrophic failure of that game for it not to win Best Sim this year.
Yeah. Next category is Fan Voice, and the one I was really pleased that this one, Ghost of Tsushima, big surprise here. It deserved the win.
Yeah, this was the Viewer's Choice Award, basically.
Yeah.
And this brings more into my whole argument of, if all of the fans think it's the best game of the year, why did Last of Us win everything else?
I guess fans versus industry. So
because something is, you want to talk about sus. This is sus. Like that how is there such a disconnect from the press and the public?
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, ourselves as members of the press, or as persona non grata as we are. We're not verified on fucking Twitter.
I'm not calling people. Sorry we don't have 1 million people. Sorry we don't pander and exaggerate and make ridiculous manipulative videos to make kids watch us. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll do that in the future if money's going to roll in like crazy dump trucks of money. Oh, look at me screaming. I'm screaming like crazy and everybody loves me now. Yeah, sorry, we're not going to do that. We'll yell when it makes sense. But I would say out of all the awards like that Last of Us won, it should have won 2. It should have won the best performance, and it should have won best narrative, if anything. Mm-hmm. And the rest, yeah.
The next one is best fighting game, and this one went to Mortal Kombat 11, which
hasn't even been out a month.
Yeah, and this is just the updated version because Mortal Kombat 11 came out last year. So okay,
well, did it come out in March? Was it March of this year or was it last year?
April
of this year?
No, April of this year was the expansion, which was Mortal Kombat Aftermath.
So how the hell did that win?
I don't.
It's not even a new game.
I don't know. It's just
it's DLC.
It's updated Ultimate. Sure. I mean, I don't even know what it was competing against.
Well, it was Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, which I played, which was an innovative, fun fighting game. It was unique and different. Street Fighter V Champion, that's all that came out at
Which
the
is
same time.
yeah, and Street Fighter V Champion, it's Street Fighter V with some
Uh,
enhancements and all the DLC. Sure.
One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows, which I don't believe is even a fight. I think it's an arena fighter. Under Night, in Expert, EXE, Late CIR. There's no new titles. The only new title here would be, I guess, One Punch Man maybe, and Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. Everything else here was an expansion.
Yeah, I mean, Mortal Kombat Afterlife was a substantial expansion, but
And ultimately, where I think next year we get a brand new, for the first time, like a brand new, none of these million extra little titles at the end. We get a brand new Guilty Gear, so that's going to be in contentionship. Remember, was it last year or the year before where it was Dragon Ball Z, which obviously cleared house? So I mean, like, that's, again, I don't think it was bought, but like, how does it qualify if it's been less than a month
I don't know.
for an expansion?
Next category was innovation in accessibility. This was no contest. This was The Last of Us Part 2. We do know someone who is involved in this personally.
And you specifically had said when you were doing a review, even before the review came out, and you were messaging me internally with our documents, you were saying, wow, they added a lot of accessibility to this.
Yeah, like you can mess around with different things. You can turn up certain difficulty things, certain button prompts, quick time events.
Yeah.
It's one of the most accessible games I've ever played, and I've seen videos of them showing people with different accessibility issues, people with sight and sound and visual problems playing it, and they can play it perfectly.
Hyperdot was the one that was the indie title that was made specifically with accessibility in mind. And I feel that probably should have won, but it was there. I guess what this is showing is how big of a push AAA developers are doing to commit to it. Grounded shouldn't have been included because that's early access. I'm of the argument that early access should never be included in a Game of the Year thing of any of these awards because it's not finished. But Watch Dogs Legion and Valhalla, there's a lot of options. Ubisoft as a company and all of the first party Sony studios are doing fantastic jobs of making games that are accessible to play. So it was going to be one of those three, likely Valhalla, Naughty Dog's one, or that. So that's cool. Makes sense. It's good that they're pushing for this to be a category every year.
Yeah, so good job. Best mobile game. Don't care, but I'm glad this people won. Among Us. Good job.
Yeah. Call of Duty Mobile, no thank you. That you mean the game that only people in China play because that's where the market is for it. Genshin Impact, not my style. I know people like the Grind Fest. Legends of Runeterra, I have no interest in. Pokemon Cafe, I didn't even install that. Among Us makes sense. Like, there's no bigger mobile title this year.
Yeah. Then moving on to best game direction. What the hell does this mean?
This is where I was like, what the fuck do they mean? Because is it game direction? If they're looking at it as a director of the movie, it's very different than the person who shapes the vision of the game. Because Hironobu Sakaguchi, doing the Final Fantasy series in Square Enix, was a game director in that they took the writing, that they would have a storyline outline, and they coached and directed the teams to make the single vision of the game. Okay, that's what a game director should be. Not, I'm directing the narrative. And that is what it seems like they're going for here. And I have a serious problem with that.
So who are some of the other nominees in
Half-Life Alyx? That game direction really shouldn't have even been in there. Hades, I can see maybe because you're directing a very unique style of game. Final Fantasy VII Remake,
convoluted, but
yes, a bit of a mess. A fun mess, but a bit of a mess. Ghost of Tsushima, that was a game that was shaped to really perfection. It is right now the epitome of open world game because we're not far enough in Cyberpunk to see if it's better. And Last of Us Part 2 should not have gotten best game direction because it was the direction and the story that were criticized most, and they did not handle it well. They lashed out at people complaining about it, and they were like even rude about it.
I think if this game was going to win anything, if it had to go between story and game direction, I think maybe it should have won direction, but not story. One or the other. Pick one and present an argument for game direction.
Yes.
It's kind of like you go through the different chapters and different exploration with you, Ellie, and Abby doing your different things. And
Yeah, they did it, like, looking at them side by side, the way that they were talking about it, it's almost as if the two categories were the same.
yeah, like I feel Ghosts, from what I understand, allows you to do more and allows you to become more, whereas
Well,
The Last of Us Part 2 has a definite end, has a definite start and a definite end point.
not to mention, you want to talk about game direction. Ghost is a game where you can turn on Akira Kurosawa mode, where it makes everything black and white, changes the audio, and makes it feel like you're in a Kurosawa movie,
Yeah,
and it feels different, and that's innovative. You can, you're every segment of that game feels like a movie. It feels like you're playing, like there's three main sections of that game. It feels like you're playing a trilogy within one game. So, yeah.
And then finally, the last category was Game of the Year, and who
Which by the way I love. I haven't refreshed my page on purpose
mm-hmm.
because I know it's going to be edited right away. Somebody immediately after the games won, wrote in here. I mean, we can already say we know who won because we've talked about it. Won every game category. But somebody put Ghost of Tsushima as the winner, no doubt. But let's go with Last of Us Part 2 because reasons. That's what the person editing this wrote, and it's going to be gone within a second. I guarantee. If I refresh the page right now, if I refresh right now, what does it say? It's gone.
Yeah.
Somebody put that in there to be snarky.
So, who were the nominees in this?
Hades. That would not win Game of the Year. It's not a wide enough release. It's not open enough to. This is the game that is supposed to be. Hey, it's not like it's a game for everybody, but it's supposed to be. Can we hit Could we hit the largest amount of audience possible without compromising our vision? That's the kind of game that's supposed to win here. It was Hades, Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy. I think almost any gamer would love to play it. I feel that there are some gamers that would avoid it, going into it with preconceptions. Doom Eternal, no, it's not for everybody. There are people that will just not play it. Animal Crossing, Last of Us Part 2, and Ghost of Tsushima. It should have been between
Animal Crossing, Ghost,
and Ghost.
Last of Us.
Yeah, and it probably should have been Ghost. Well, now you know what? It probably should have been Animal Crossing in the year of COVID.
Yeah, because Animal Crossing brought people together. It brought people together across the political spectrum.
Well, so I mean, it's been used to connect with politicians of all things.
Yeah, like you could visit the, I think it was the AOC. Joe Biden had his own island.
Didn't Obama do it or something?
Yeah, and fucking what's his name? The fucking Uncle Machete. Danny Trejo used to come to people's islands.
Yeah, and this was not a publicity stunt by him. He was just playing.
Yeah, so in my opinion.
Yeah, and the only other one, but it's not big enough, that could have been put in there instead of Hades. Why didn't they put in Among Us?
Yeah,
that was used. Remember there was a thing a few weeks ago with the NDP leader, federal NDP leader of Canada, so the third biggest political party, Jagmeet Singh was playing with AOC in the States.
Yeah, like that's a pretty big thing.
Yeah, and they weren't even like I checked out a bit. It wasn't overly politicized. Even it was more like,
let's have fun and hang out.
Hey, look, we can have fun too. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
I mean, like Last of Us. No,
I mean it's a good game. I'd put it in the top 3 of the year. I really would.
Here's a question: are you ever going to replay it?
Yes, but I'm going to replay it with a lot more of the accessibility options on to tailor it so I can do a story playthrough.
Do you think the vast majority of people will play it more than once or even get through it?
I think people will finish it. People might go back and play it twice, but I don't see you playing it multiple times. When I played The Last of Us Part 1, I played that through that game that year 13 times because I could speed run it. I had it down to a science. Plus, it had fantastic multiplayer. This one, the story's a little too dark.
Ghost of Tsushima, people will play. I mean, there's a couple choices that you can make in the game. I won't spoil it, even though it's been out for a while. But it's the kind of gameplay that they added a multiplayer version now. They've been adding things to it. It probably should have won for being a high mark of the last generation. It is. I know it's subjective, but I feel that it's a slightly better game overall. But I still think Animal Crossing should win because people are going to be playing Animal Crossing for probably the next 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those games that has a legacy player base. You can always add stuff into it. The player community is huge.
I think they said by January it will have outsold every other game on the Switch.
It doesn't surprise me. Like
it's only behind Mario Kart, and that's because Mario Kart was a launch title.
Yeah, so
or pretty damn close to being launched.
I mean, I think if I had to do a top 3 of the year, I would go honestly Animal Crossing, Ghosts, Last of Us. Those would be the top 3. Then I'd put Final Fantasy VII. Then I'd put Persona 5 Royal.
If we would put personal choices in here, I would put Persona as number 1, as what I personally liked. Persona, Final Fantasy, and I was going to say put in Yakuza, but it goes against my whole having it come out within a month. Yeah, it needs to be out a little longer than 4 weeks. So if I don't include that, I would say Ghost for sure. So I mean that's that. I mean it is what it is. I know I'm not trying not to be like conspiracy theory about it, but it just seemed to win too many categories considering the public backlash against it.
With me, I feel if I'm going to have it as the game of the year and for it to be sweeping so many categories, I should feel passionately towards it rather than passionately defending it. Like, do you kind of get where I'm kind of coming from with that?
It's a game where if you go to talk to somebody on the street who hasn't played it but has heard of it, the first thing you have to do is defend it.
Yes, and I see a lot of people talking about the problems with the game right now. And my problem with The Last of Us is not about Abby. It's not about Ellie. And it's not even what happens to some of the other characters in the game. It's
mood.
It's mood. I didn't like how it made me feel. And that's how a game should affect you when it's really effectively written. But it didn't. It's like that woman earlier this year does this spark joy. Animal Crossing, though not having played it, I can observe a community expressing love, joy, sharing, and changing. The Last of Us community got toxic real fast. And that's one hell of a way to turn me off a game.
And it's well past the obviously the timeline. It'll have to be included next year. But I feel that for best family or best action adventure, don't be surprised if Phoenix Rising gets included. It probably won't win.
I hope it gets nominated for something.
I wouldn't be surprised if it gets family because there's nothing in there that's too egregious. It should be in for action adventure. It really should. Mm-hmm. So quickly about the performances. We talked briefly that there was a performance for Persona.
Yep.
There was also that digital group.
Yeah, the OTB or OTK or something.
Yeah, we'll find it out on YouTube. I like the song. Yeah. I didn't think I would. And then we had the London Philharmonic.
Yep, that was cool.
They came in. They did a Mario 35th medley, and it was bumping. I loved it. And then we had Eddie Vedder. I guess he did a song for Last of Us. Eh?
I don't remember. I think. Well,
I think he wrote it.
I don't remember it. Like the only musical part I remember in Last of Us Part 2 is you go into a music store in Seattle, you find a guitar, you play it to your girlfriend, but you're playing an acoustic version of Take On Me. And it's really well done, but it's not fucking Eddie Vedder.
At least some promotion. I'm just trying to see if it was used in something. In the 2020 game, Last of Us Part 2, Joel performs an acoustic cover version of the song.
Now I know where.
This is the song he teaches her how to play. That at the end she's playing when she had no fingers or whatever.
Okay, now I know where it is.
So that's why it's there, and she gives up the attempt, blah blah blah, and he performs the song at the Game Awards. So he's playing he had a regular like electric guitar version, and he played the cover version they made.
Okay, so
of his song, and he was Eddie Vedder's one of those guys where like I'm not a huge Pearl Jam fan. I like their first album 10 or whatever it's called. I like hearing bits and pieces, certain certain things. Oh my God, your phone.
That's actually Blair's.
Oh, good Lord. Uh, but I do like him as a performer. So I thought it was well done, and it made me laugh. My note here was, oh my God, his cheapy camera is still better than what Reggie, the multi-millionaire, probably worth like $100 million. Reggie was using like a Logitech webcam from 1999 that my mom used in like MSN chats, and he was using a headset that cost like $40 trying to talk into the mic. And I'm like, what are you doing? Just use your phone. Your phone has a better camera. But yes, that was my note there. And then the very end, the London Philharmonic came back to do the medley that they did of all the Game of the Year nominations. And holy crap, they found a way to blend that all together. They built an underlying sort of bass part, and then they wove in all the nominees, and that was pretty fantastic. So that was, they found a way to do the performances, and it was pretty good. And let me see, pulling up the trailers that premiered. We're not going to go over everything, obviously.
The one I thought was really cool was a game called Crimson Desert. I thought that was the new Elder Scrolls game.
Let's see. The first thing here was
D&D game.
The first big thing. Like, they showed a few little ones before the show started, and I don't remember them because they weren't that important. But they showed a tease for Perfect Dark.
Yes, that looked really cool
from the initiative. And then I realized that it was, I guess it's an Xbox exclusive, obviously, because they own it.
Yep.
But it's not made by Rare. So that tells you where the faith is in Rare. I thought that one game was called The Stain, but it was called Back 4 Blood.
Which is Left 4 Dead, but not. It's Left 4 Dead, but with Resident Evil monsters. Yeah, sure. Okay.
And the zombification is the same worms that were in The Strain.
So
which is a vampire show.
So
all right,
sure. Why not?
It looks kind of cool. And then there was one called Hoods, and all I wrote down was zero interest in multiplayer heists.
Yeah, don't care.
Don't care. It didn't look very good frame rate wise either.
Dragon Age.
Oh, and wait, Cyberpunk Forza 4 Horizon, which is the old game that just got the remaster for next gen for free.
Yeah, so you got the Cyberpunk car. Cool.
Yeah, Cyberpunk car, cool. And the music for it.
Yeah.
And then what was there? The Callisto Protocol. That's the one that we thought was Dead Space.
Yeah, so that looks all right.
And it is by the same people that made Dead Space.
So I'm not surprised.
Or the same director. And then what else? They dropped an ad during the show saying that Persona 5 Strikers is available for pre-order digitally.
Yep.
And if you pay the $10 more, you get some DLC plus 40 tracks from the soundtrack.
Yeah, I'm downloading that literally after the show tonight.
My note was, I'm like, wait a minute, what is this for? I wrote a note saying boner time, and I realized, it's Dragon Age.
Yeah, I was watching this with my friend Liam, who came over from next door to listen to my 2.5-hour rant about video games. I guess this is a soft reboot of the series.
It's Dragon Age 4.
But they don't say Dragon Age 4, they just say Dragon Age. Did they drop that title?
They did. It was Dragon Age. Originally, it was Dragon Age 4 or Dragon Age: The Dreadwolf. And so the storyline, because I know you tried to play, but you couldn't get into the old mechanics of the first game.
Mm-hmm.
The first game, you play as a Grey Warden who is somebody who has to drink Darkspawn blood. Darkspawn are like demons, blah blah blah, yada yada. And if you survive and don't go crazy or die, you're a warden because you get some enhanced strength, but you can also sense when they're around. So that's why you're there. And your whole job is to slay dragons. Blah blah blah. Cool. I don't remember if it's the first game or the second game where you get introduced to Solus, who's an elf, and it turns out he's actually an ancient. He's one of the people that brought the Darkspawn into the world thousands and thousands of years ago by doing a blood magic ritual. And he's been sort of cursed with immortality, and you didn't know about it. He's actually a character on your team in the third game, Inquisition. And in one of the DLCs or the expansions, near the end, he disappears from your team, and you realize when you find out that he's one of the people that caused the world to basically turn into ruin like it has. And you're like, holy shit. And then they're like, we're finally going to do the next game. It's going to be in the Tevinter Imperium, which is like a giant, a giant empire to like, I think it's the north or the west. It's or the south. In the map, we've only explored maybe a quarter of the world in all three games, and it's like this giant empire that has slaves and all this crazy stuff, and they date back thousands of years. And it was the Tevinter Imperium that had the mages that accidentally uh, made the Darkspawn. So you were going to go down there, and it at the end of the game, it was revealed like who Solus was, and that was the tease. And now we waited like 7 years, and we see it, and I'm like, wait, they dropped the subtitle, so it's a soft reboot. I think you're going to be able. I don't think you're playing uh, as the Inquisitor or as the Herald or anything from the previous games. I think you're playing as a new person who will get to be introduced to the world, but the storyline will continue.
Okay, so maybe I'll give this new one a whirl. I mean,
It'll be very new gameplay too. Guarantee you, they're going to redo everything from the ground up.
will it be on Xbox Game Pass?
Fuck no, it's
Oh,
EA.
well, I figured because of EA Game Pass, I wondered.
They don't give for first run games on there. They only give it a little later.
Okay, so I might give it a run when it hits
Yeah,
Game Pass eventually.
I will get it day one. It's just happening. Although I am worried because the creative director of all the Dragon Age games that's been
Just
there
left.
for 18 years left. Now, did he leave because he's done all he can? Or did he leave because he's not okay with the direction of the game?
I have a feeling it's that one.
We'll see. Okay. Anywho's it?
Arc 2 with Vin Diesel, which we thought this was like going to be a Turok game, which, all right, Arc 2. I didn't know Arc 1 was at a beta.
But there was, remember Crimson Desert? That's what came right after.
Yeah.
That's the one. My response was terrible frame rate.
Yes, agreed.
But it's pre-alpha and the textures are bad. And I was like, well, if they can get that up to 60, it looks like Skyrim.
Yeah, it looks like this generation's Skyrim. It looks like Skyrim meets Dungeons and Dragons. This is what I want a fantasy game to look like. That's fucking cool.
Yeah, you can ride dragons in it.
Yeah, like, and you're dodging like fire from the ground. You're storming castles like a fucking troll or something drops in the middle of like a throne room. Man, color me in. If the lore is interesting, color me the fuck in, because that looks
yeah. Cool. And then the next one was we talked about Swedish Chef, London Philharmonic. A game called Seasons.
Yeah, that one looked interesting.
PS5 exclusive. And it was like a hand-drawn cartoony style, and I'm like, oh, it's just like a travel movie or travel game where you travel. Wait, what? Why are these ancient? Like, it's like your grandparents' generation lasted 1,000 years, your parents lasted 100. You have a single season. I'm like, what the hell is this game? And you're like uncovering like old like Celtic ruins and stuff. Okay. Then Vin Diesel in what I thought was Turok, but it was not Turok.
Yeah, Arc 2, sure. Okay, why not?
Hey, maybe they should finish Arc 1 because it's still in early access.
Yeah, but so, that's an idea. But
and the frame rate on this game, whoo boy, is like 10 FPS.
Although I'm more excited about the Arc animated series, because I was sitting here again with Liam, and we're like, is this a Dino Riders reboot? Which, if you're not as old as I am and older than the fucking hills, there used to be a cartoon called Dino Riders way back in the mid 1980s. Very, very cool toy line, by the way.
Yes, it is.
And we thought it was that, but we're like, no, this is fucking Arc. We're like, that's cool.
I would be happy with Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
Yeah, that deserves it. Actually, I have the role-playing game for that.
Oh boy.
Although, side note, this series of Arc stars Russell Crowe, so fat Russell Crowe again, Carl Urban, and Vin Diesel among an all-star cast. All right, sure, man. I'm in. Cool.
Now, I made a note saying Nolan North looks old. COVID has aged him. Then I said, Evil Dead? ?
Yeah, and it looks like another asymmetrical game, kind of similar to the Ilphonic Gun Media Friday the 13th, and to a lesser extent, the Predator Hunting Grounds. It's not that team. I looked at the bottom, seeing who was developing it. MGM Games I saw in there, I think. But it's not. Ilphonic after.
and Saber Interactive's making it, and it's apparently a Switch exclusive.
Wow, I'm in.
Yeah.
I said this to Liam because I didn't get into the Evil Dead movies until he showed me. I'm like, you know what? Sure.
Unless maybe that's just the trailer, but yeah, there's that. Ghosts and Goblins looks terrible.
Yeah, and this got leaked a few weeks ago.
The leaks were that it was supposed to be on the RE engine, and if it is, it looks like there's no animation, like it's tweened like old Flash or Shockwave from 2004. It looks incredibly bad,
Yeah,
offensively bad to the fans.
I mean, if you want to make a retro style game like that, make it look like Streets of Rage 4. Go like that.
That's what I thought they were going to do.
Yeah, same here. But okay, sure, I'm not going to play it.
Well,
whatever.
It's Capcom. If it's not Resident Evil or Monster Hunter, they won't spend any money on it, and they like to shit on everything.
Or no, they'll spend money on Street Fighter, but only if you bitch.
Yes, and Devil May Cry.
Although they did show off something, this was kind of a surprise. They did this on the Xbox 360, but it was under a different name, and they're calling this one Capcom Stadium, I think. And you can download different Capcom arcade games, and you get
they're gonna make you pay to download individual games.
Yes,
I guarantee it.
Yes, they are.
Fuck that! I'm sorry. Give me a set price so I get everything.
There'll probably be some kind of a bundle. I'd like to know how much these games are going to cost, as long as they're arcade perfect emulation.
If they're arcade perfect, do not charge me anything more than $5 per game.
Yes, or if they match the price or have the same features as the Sega Ages stuff, sure.
They won't, because the Sega Ages stuff was perfect, and it was $50 for like 50 games.
Yeah, like it's going to be. I'm curious. I'm cautiously optimistic about this, but it's Capcom.
We saw our first gameplay of what's it called? I forget the name of the company, but they're the ones making Returnal, the exclusive PS5 game.
Oh,
where you're in like the Groundhog Day loop, and it actually looked a lot better than that trailer that we saw in the summer, where the faces didn't look right.
Yeah, this one, it looks very particle effects lighting heavy. It looks cool though. It looks interesting. I might play it. I don't know. I mean, if we get offered a review copy, yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think it was House Marquee is the company. Big surprise of the night. It Takes Two. The same guy that was the super enthusiastic developer that showed off, what was the game that the Way Out or something like that, where you had to get out of prison. This is the game where you get turned. You're a couple. You're a couple that's having fights, and this book turns you into like
a wooden clay doll.
Yeah, and you have to work together to get your love back and your body back.
Yeah, this actually looked really fun. I was watching this with Liam, and we're like, "This looks stupid yet kind of amazing." It's got such a good vibe about it.
And if enthusiasm and charisma mean anything, this guy's got it.
Yeah. So hopefully,
yes. I was gonna say Reggie with the terrible mic and camera setup. Although he had a little goose on his desk. Let me see here. Anything else? Elder Scrolls Online. I wrote snooze.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to Oblivion, yay. I mean, we weren't going to get anything Elder Scrolls 6 here. It's just not going to happen. Todd Howard's not going to give Jeff that footage. You'll see that next year around E3 time, because E3 time.
And there was no Final Fantasy 16, which made me sad. There was also no Sonic, which I thought there might be, or Rayman. There was nothing from Ubisoft. They didn't even show up, or Koei Tecmo. No, they didn't show up at all either. And then I'm trying to think if there's any other trailers. Master Chief and Fortnite, as well as a couple people from Walking Dead. And then there was a trailer for League of Legends single player game that looks like Battle Chasers Night War. And those are pretty small titles. But then we have the big final trailer.
Yes, this made me so happy, and an utter surprise. Nobody leaked it. Mass Effect, and it looks like it's a straight up continuation.
Yeah, and there's Mass Effect, and it wasn't just, I was like, is it the trilogy? because I heard the bar, and then I was like, no, Mass Effect will continue.
Yeah, and you see the remnants, presumably, of some mass relays. You hear a Reaper and some kind of radio chatter, and then I'm pretty sure that's Liara picking up a piece of N7 armor, and then
Yeah, going through the rubble of I guess
something.
this
The
it's
Citadel.
either the Normandy or the Citadel.
So whatever this is, I'm going to pre-order it
Yeah.
the second it comes available. In fact,
Yeah.
I don't pre-order physical editions anymore because you've burned me too much and I can only buy so many wheelchairs. I'm interested. I'm very interested in this.
Now, do you think, as a final thought on this game, do you think Casey Hudson left because Casey didn't want to do any more Mass Effect?
I think something changed in the writer's room and he's like, you know what, if you're not going to do my vision of Mass Effect.
No, I would want to question if maybe Casey wanted to complete the story for Andromeda and tie it in, and now they're just going to scrap it or tie it in tangentially.
I could see that because Andromeda, if they wanted to pick up those threads in the future, they can. But Mass Effect Andromeda, it's kind of like Stargate Universe.
You know how you do it. The only way to, because it takes place in the future, is a relay malfunctions and it's like a Stargate, and you pull back the survivors, or you find a way to pull the teams together that way.
And that'd be okay. I would be okay having further adventures in the Helios cluster in the Andromeda galaxy. I'd be fine with that. But we care about the Milky Way. We want to know what happens to the Council, the Citadel, the Krogan. We want to know these things.
I was going to say the Alpha Quadrant, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, close enough. So I guess we will have all these questions and more answered hopefully soon. We have the Mass Effect trilogy coming out in just a few months.
How would you rate this from like an A to F scale for a game show or a Game Awards show? I would say awards wise, it was a C minus.
Yeah.
I would say trailers wise, it was a B.
Yeah.
Performances was about an A minus.
I would say awards wise, I'd give it C plus. I think it did okay. It could have done a lot better. Trailers wise, yeah, I bet a B. Pretty solid B. Performances, A minus again. You got the London Philharmonic, you had the Persona people. It was good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You got the right amount of stars, although, sidebar, they had Tom Holland come out. They had Nolan North there, who's the voice of Nathan Drake. The Uncharted movie's been done filming. Would this not have been the opportunity to show off the trailer? Just saying.
Well, no, because everybody has to be super happy about Last of Us 2 winning everything, and we don't want to take away from that.
I guess, but still, fuck.
There should have been a premiere for that. There should have also been a premiere for Ubisoft. Isn't Ubisoft involved with another season of that sitcom they made?
Oh, the one on Apple Plus?
Yeah.
Yeah, and because they had Brie Larson come out for to present an award, I'm surprised Disney didn't give them something to show.
Square Enix had very little to show there. The only other thing I can think of is Just Cause Mobile. Fuck right off.
Yeah, why?
It looks like garbage.
Yeah, so this award show as a whole, I'm going to give it a B minus.
It's a B minus. If here's the thing: if this was not a COVID year, this would have been a C minus.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they did the best they could. All the props to Jeff Keighley for putting together a 4-hour plus show.
Yeah, like I'm always impressed with the amount of resources Jeff Keighley can pull together. Everybody who did their presenting, I think, did mostly a fantastic job. A lot of really good wins here. Some of them.
Why was Tenet involved?
I don't know. I genuinely
don't know. Oh, do you think maybe Warner Brothers paid them a shit ton of money just to have them on?
Yeah. And I was actually surprised Christopher Nolan didn't go off on Warner Brothers. So yikes. Yeah. Anyway, folks, that's our thoughts. This will be the last prototype of 2020. We will be doing obviously more of these in 2021.
With Cyberpunk.
with Cyberpunk, we will be doing something at the beginning of January after me and Alex have done a playthrough plus. And we'll talk about Cyberpunk Red and how it ties into it. It's going to be a fantastic show. Look for that in early January because I'm taking some time off. God damn you people. And I'm going to play some video games. It's going to be fun. So anyway, guys, we got more stuff coming up on the site in the next couple of days. I have a Twig Sunday Funnies with JT. Alex has a last minute, oh my God, I forgot everything at the grocery store, Turd or Treasure coming out in the middle of next week. I've got dental surgery coming up, so I won't be able to talk for a few days.
Can I make fun of you the whole time if I hear you talk?
Please.
Oh, my face. Is this real life? You'll be like that kid.
Oh, it's going to be terrible. I'm not looking forward to this. But hey, if I can lose my leg, this can't be any worse, right? So anyway, guys, until next time for the prototype, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike, the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.